This is called Adam and Eve in the Garden of Lovelorn Quantum-Entangled Photons, a memoir. In the beginning was rest. All matter and energy was a bright grain of sand, so impossibly dense that if you had two, you could use them for geometry. Maybe we were even part of a mathematically perfect constellation of unsprung realities, harmonious and at peace. But now we're the neighbors you can't stand. Today, ours is the obnoxious universe next door, having loud sex and blasting Nickelback from blown speakers. This was all God's fault, of course. He kicked our blissful little ball of energy out of bed, yelling, "Time to get up! Let's move! It's light out!" It's been war ever since. In the battle of rest versus motion, each has exactly one weapon. Motion's weapon of choice is time. If it weren't for time and motion, we'd all get along great. There would literally be no distance between us, and no conflict. God knows that motion is a scam made possible by a fiendish contraption called time. Even more than killing the dinosaurs, God regrets time. Opting into time was the most violent act God ever committed. And this is a guy who drowned all the panda bears in the world, except two. Just because we fucked up. That's why the panda bears refused to bone in the zoos. It was an arranged marriage and they're miserable. God made man in his own image. Misery loves company. The universe yearns to return to a state of rest. Why do we say 4-hour drive instead of 200 miles? It's because the farther we have to move, the more pissed off we get along the way. To move through time is to endure, to suffer helplessly as the universe continues to expand, getting lonelier and emptier. As Einstein probably once said, motion plus time equals melancholy. Fortunately, rest has an ally too, and its name is inertia. If a body at rest tends to stay at rest, and a body in motion tends to stay in motion, then the one thing everybody has in common is staying. This is why you can play travel Jenga on a bullet train going 200 miles per hour and then fall asleep when you get bored. Once the train gets up to speed, rest reasserts itself as the natural state of affairs. Even our poor Lovelorn Photons have inertia. Light is made of photons. Under the right conditions, you can split a blue photon in half, resulting in a pair of quantum-entangled red photons. No matter how far apart they travel, even in opposite directions, they're linked together in a way that completely defies the concept of motion as we know it. Two quanta, both alike in oscillation. Born in an anisotropic crystal where we conduct our experiment. The relative polarization of each photon is completely random, but somehow when considered together as one distributed phenomenon, their relative polarization never quite resolves into certainty, yet is certain to be in sync nonetheless. The photon's metaphysical love affair is a paradox. It's like a mountain that isn't there until the mapmaker draws it. Oh, but the mapmaker? He's on the mountain. No matter what sort of equipment the photons are working with, they remain totally gay for each other. For them, all possible orientations are true at once. They live the most restful lives imaginable. Photons commune faster than light because they don't know they're moving. That is until you step in and measure. Then the poetry collapses and each particle gets an instant peek under the other's fig leaf and has to decide whether they like what they see. To an entity outside of time and motion, the mere act of measurement is destructive. Like God ripping Adam and Eve out of Eden, you bless them with the memory of perfection and curse them with knowing they can never go back. Did you know if you put an airplane on a giant conveyor belt, it'll take off as if the ground weren't moving at all? It surges forward as if towed across a frozen lake, tethered to an invisible flying griffin of legend, with the body of a lion, the wings of the Wright brothers' airplane, and the head of Isaac Newton himself. Liberated from the crass relative motion of the ground, they launch skyward to choose their own frames of reference, in a state of quantum entanglement with reality itself, where all places are one, because all is at rest. But, as the plane disappears into the fading sky above, we remain, grounded and forlorn, wishing we'd boarded when we had the chance. Instead, we keep moving, naively hoping that motion changes anything. Life is in the struggle, we tell ourselves, oblivious to the web in which we're caught. The more we struggle, the tighter the web's grip. Meanwhile, a spider is approaching. Its jaws are large enough to devour everything that has ever been or will be. Its name is entropy, and it is a creature of mercy. 10 duotrigentillion years from now, give or take, all the thermodynamic free energy will be depleted, and the spider of entropy will devour us whole, delivering us blissfully back to infinite statelessness, the longest sigh of relief ever uttered. The universe began at rest, it will end at rest. Motion is the enemy, and time its fiendish weapon. Using time as its pry bar, motion stretched out our experience across the ages, giving itself a hellish bonfire around which to contort and cackle. Remember, motion is merely rest sodomized by time. Violence, the fear of peace, and inertia, the enigmatic Tupperware container that keeps harmony fresh. And one day soon, in a messianic return to grace, the universe will wake up, evolved, sentient, self-aware, and wise enough to just go back to bed.